Hello students. In the today's lecture, we will discuss about moment of inertia and how to obtain the moment of inertia of different sections. In the previous lectures, we talked about the bending stresses. We find out that sigma by y was equal to m by I. So that means the bending stress sigma was inversely proportional to the moment of inertia of the section. And we need to determine the value of moment of inertia for different sections because the beams that we encounter in the engineering problems are of different cross section. They may be square, rectangular, hollow rectangular, circular, maybe hollow rectangular, and the hollow circular shapes also. So because of these variety of sections that we encounter in the engineering field, we need to know how we can determine the moment of inertia for these sections. Let's first start with what is the moment of inertia. So moment of inertia of a cross section is basically a geometrical characteristics of that section, and it is numerically equal to let's say if we want to find the moment of inertia about the x-axis, then the moment of inertia will be equal to integral of y square dot dA. That means it is those small elementary area and the distance from the x-axis. If you square them up and multiply with those corresponding area and sum of all these such areas, you are going to obtain the moment of inertia of the section about that axis. Similarly, you can define the moment of inertia about the y-axis by multiplying the distance from the y-axis of that small elementary area, that is x square of that quantity, and multiplied by the corresponding area, and you sum them up, or you take the integration over that entire area for that. Now as we are going to determine the moment of inertia for different shape sections, we are going to need some propositions here, and they are very commonly known as first proposition is commonly known as parallel axis theorem. So what is the parallel axis theorem? The moment of inertia with respect to any axis parallel to the centroidal axis is equal to the moment of inertia with respect to the centroidal axis plus the product of the area of the figure and the square of the distance between these two axes. So if we say, like the figure that you can see here, the GG, the line, the red line which is marked here, is, let's say, the centroidal axis of the figure, this trapezoidal figure which is shown over here, and you want to determine the moment of inertia about an axis AB. This axis may or may not be passing through the section itself. So like here, this AB axis is outside this figure, and we want to determine the moment of inertia this section about this axis AB. So in that case, the moment of inertia about AB can be defined as sum of the moment of inertia about the centroidal axis GG, IGG, plus area of the figure, the cross section area of the figure, that is given by A, multiplied by the distance square between these two axes. Okay, so this is called parallel axis theorem. So these two axes GG and AB are parallel. You need to know the distance between them, that is H here given. You need to the area of cross section of the figure, that is A. So you can find the moment of inertia about any axis which is parallel to the centroidal axis by using this formula. We can prove it also. It is so easy to prove. Now let's consider a small elementary area delta A, which is shown here as this hash stripped, and we can define the IGG, or the moment of inertia about the centroidal axis, as summation of y square dot delta A. That means if we take all those small strips of delta A area and you multiply the square of the distances from the centroidal axis, then you are going to get, if you sum up all of them, you are going to get the moment of inertia about the centroidal axis IGG. Now if you want to define the IAB, so IAB can be defined as this distance, as we know, is H. So H plus Y or H minus Y, all these areas of this cross sections are lying either H plus Y, that means this is the positive side, and H minus Y, that means the negative side. So if you take all these distances of h plus and minus y, and then you make it h plus minus y whole square multiplied by dA. That gives you the moment of inertia about this IAB. If you expand this term, this will going to give you h square plus y square plus minus 2hy, and you divide it into three terms as summation of h square dot delta A plus summation of y square dot delta A plus minus 2h times of summation of y delta A. Now in this expression, this third term is equal to 0 because summation of y delta A is 0, because GG is a centroidal axis. So that is the basic definition of the centroidal axis. So therefore the summation of y dot delta A will be 0 about the axis that is called as a centroidal axis. So it will be 0 here. Summation of h square dot delta A can be written as h square multiplied by summation of delta A. Summation of delta A is nothing but the area of the figure, that is A. So that becomes h square A. So finally the IAB can be defined as IGG plus h square into A. So here is your term that we want to prove. So we have proved that moment of inertia about a parallel axis is equal to sum of the moment of inertia about the centroidal axis plus area of the figure multiplied by the distance square between these two parallel axes. Now let's look at the second proposition. This second proposition is known as perpendicular axis theorem. What is this theorem? The moment of inertia about an axis perpendicular to the plane and passing through the intersection of the other two axes x and y contained by the plane is equal to the sum of the moment of inertia about the x and y axis, or xx and y axis. So here in this figure you see this is your axis xx, this is your axis yy. They both are perpendicular to each other. They are contained in the plane of this paper or the board that you can see, and there is another axis which is passing through perpendicular to them and through the origin O. It is perpendicular to both x and y, and it is out of the plane of this paper or the board, that is the z axis. So what this theorem is saying, it is saying that IZZ will be equal to sum of IXX plus IYY. Okay, so that is the what the mathematical statement of this theorem is, or the proposition is. We can again prove it here. So in purpose of the proving it, let's consider an elementary area. This is the elementary area we have considered. Let's say this is delta A, small elementary area, and let's say its coordinate are basically x and y. So it is at a small y distance from the x-axis and small x distance from the y-axis, and let's say it is at a distance of r from the z-axis, which is shown over here. So we can say that moment of inertia about the x-axis can be defined by the basic definition as summation of y square delta A. Moment of inertia about y-axis can be defined as summation of x square dot delta A. Similarly, moment of inertia about z-axis can be defined as summation of r square dot delta A, where r is the distance from the z-axis of this small elementary area. But from this figure we also know that r square is equal to x square plus y square, because this is a 90-degree triangle. So r square is equal to x square plus y square. If you substitute for r square as x square plus y square here, you will get here this term, and which you can get convert into two summations, as summation of y square dot delta A plus summation of x square dot delta A. And as we know their expression for them are IXX and IYY, I can write it down as IZZ is equal to IXX plus IYY. Now let's look at the third proposition. What is the third proposition? It is the moment of inertia of the composite figure. So what it says is that the moment of inertia of the composite figure is equal to the sum of the moment of inertia of its separate parts. So here you see a kind of a complicated figure, but you can divide it into three regular size figures. One is this trapezoidal figure here, another one is the rectangle figure here, and the third one is another trapezoidal figure. So this actually the whole figure that you are seeing was very complex, but you divide it into simple figures such as shown over here, and these figures have the area of A1, A2 and A3. Okay, and you want to determine the moment of inertia of this total figure here. So the the complete section is made up of three different sections, three regular areas, and their areas are A1, A2 and A3. So moment of inertia of the whole section about the line AB or the axis AB will be equal to integral of y square delta A, and you can obtain them by making the sum of the moment of inertia of individually these three sections. So it will be summation of integral of y1 square dot delta A1 plus integral of y2 square delta A2 plus integral of y3 square delta A3, which are nothing but your I1, I2 and I3, basically the moment of inertia of these three sections, which you know already. So by dividing a figure which is a complicated figure into those regular shape figures whose moment of inertia you already know, you can obtain the moment of inertia of that complete complex figure or complex section. Now let's apply the things that we have learned so far, and we are going to use some of the propositions that we have just seen. Let's start with a simple rectangle. Okay, so let's have a kind of a beam which is a rectangular one, and you need to find the bending stress for that beam. You know the formula sigma by y is equal to m by I, and in order to determine the bending stress sigma, you need to determine the moment of inertia of that beam, which is a rectangular beam. So you need to find out the moment of inertia of a rectangular section. So that rectangular cross section of the beam is shown here, and it has got a depth of small d by 2 plus d by 2, that is small d, and it has got the width of small b. Okay, so it is a cross section of small b multiplied by small d, where b is the width and d is the depth of the section. And you can see the axis x-axis, which is the horizontal axis, and y is the vertical axis, and they are simply passing in a way that they are passing through the center of this figure. And consider that we have the elementary strip of delta y thickness at a distance y from the x-axis. So this hatched line, hatched area is area of delta A, and the thickness of this strip is delta y, and it is situated at a small y distance from the axis x-axis. Now if you want to determine ix, you need to make either the summation or the integral of all those small areas delta A and their distance square from the axis x-axis, and you are going to go for the limit from minus d by 2, because this is your x-axis, y is negative on the from this axis and positive above it, so it is going from minus d by 2 to plus d by 2. So you have minus d by 2 to plus d by 2 here. What is dA? dA is the area of this elementary strip, because this elementary strip has got the thickness of delta y and it has got the length of b equal to width of the beam, so the area will be b dot delta y. So you get here b dot delta y. So you substitute over here, and then you bring out the b outside, and then the remaining term you are going to integrate. So y square is going to give you y cube by 3. The limit is changing from minus d by 2 plus d by 2. You substitute it over here, and finally you will calculate the moment of inertia about x-axis for a rectangular section as 1 by 12 bd cube, or simply bd cube by 12. Similarly, instead of going for the x-axis, if you want to find the moment of inertia about the y-axis, only it will change from integral of y square dot delta A to integral of x square delta A. This time the limits will go from minus b by 2 to plus b by 2, and you will end up getting the relation Iyy equal to db cube by 12. These are the moment of inertia about the axis, or rather the centroidal axis, in the horizontal and vertical direction. But if you suppose want to find the moment of inertia about the edge of this rectangle, which is AB, which is shown here, you can use the parallel axis theorem and determine the moment of inertia about the axis AB. So from parallel axis theorem, we know that the moment of inertia about AB will be nothing but the moment of inertia about the centroidal axis, that is the Ixx, plus area of the cross section of the figure multiplied by the distance between these figures, these axes, that means xx and AB, that distance is d by 2, square of that distance, so d by 2 whole square. You substitute for A equal to B times of D, and you substitute for Ixx BD cube by 12, you will get the moment of inertia of the rectangle about the edge AB as BD cube by 3. Now let's understand few more terms which will be very useful for us. So let's talk about the section modulus. So this is nothing but the relation that we have derived already, sigma by y is equal to m by I. I can write sigma is equal to m divided by I by y. You see here your sigma, if you want the sigma to be maximum, your y need to be max also. What is the y? Y is the distance of the fiber from the neutral axis. Okay, so the maximum distance fiber will be lying at the extremities. Okay, so it will be at the top of the beam and the bottom of the beam. So y need to be max also. So if you want the sigma to be max, you want to calculate the maximum stress that is developed in the cross section, you need to substitute for y equal to y max, that is the extreme values of the y. So this sigma x m max sigma max will be equal to m divided by I by y max. This I by y max is basically the characteristic or the property of the cross section that you are having of the beam. So that is we call as Z. This Z is section modulus and it is defined by I by y max. Okay, the maximum distance fiber that is there in the cross section. So if you divide I by the y max, you will get the section modulus. You see this sigma max is inversely proportional to the section modulus. Higher the section modulus of a particular section, the less the amount of stress that will be produced. So we will try to identify the section or design the section in such a manner that it provides you the maximum section modulus, so that the amount of stresses that are developed in the section will be minimum. We can calculate the section modulus for the rectangular section because we have just determined the moment of inertia value for the rectangular section, that was BD cube by 12. And what will be the y max in that? You can go and see your previous figure. So y max will be the extreme distance fiber. What is the extreme distance fiber? That is situated at d by 2 distance. Okay, so here if you divide it by d by 2, you will get the section modulus for a rectangular section as BD square by 6. You see this rectangular section is about the x-axis axis. If you want to find the rectangular section about the y-y axis, it will be simply dB square by 6. Okay, now radius of gyration. Basically we can define the moment of inertia as the multiple of cross section area multiplied by a term kxx square, where kxx is defined as the radius of gyration. You can find the radius of gyration of a particular section by taking the under root of the quantity Ixx divided by area. That means the under root of the moment of inertia of the section divided by the area of cross section of the section. Here in this case for a rectangular section, because Ixx is BD cube by 12 and area is B times of D, you will get the Kxx value as simply D by 2 root 3. Okay, in your mechanics of solids book, you may find the tables at the end of the book where you are given the value of the radius of gyration for some regular shaped sections. So using those information, by memorizing them, you can calculate the moment of inertia by simply multiplying the cross section area with the square of the radius of gyration of the values which are given over there. So there are such tables for the different type of sections such as rectangular, square and circular and other sections, where you can simply memorize them of the radius of gyration. So you can calculate the value of moment of inertia using those tables. Now let's look at a bit complex figure. Now we are talking here about a hollow rectangular section. Okay, so in this hollow rectangular section, you can see there is a it has got a cross section dimension of outer dimension is of capital B, the depth is capital D, and inside dimensions are small b is the width and d is the depth. So this is basically a hollow rectangular section, and you must have seen such kind of a rectangular pipes, and they are used in a lot of situations in a bending positions. So you need to determine their moment of inertia so that you can calculate the bending stresses in it. Right now we are focusing only on this particular figure, that is a hollow rectangular section, and later on we will talk about the remaining two figures, which are C and I shaped sections. So for this hollow section, as I told you, the B cross D are the external dimension and small b cross small d is the internal dimension of this figure. The moment of inertia of this hollow rectangular section can be calculated using the third proposition, that is the moment of inertia of the composite figure. But here we need to apply it in the sense that the moment of inertia of the external rectangle minus moment of inertia of the internal rectangle is going to give you the moment of inertia of this hollow rectangular section. So by using a proper algebraic sign of a minus here, we can calculate the moment of inertia of the hollow rectangular section. You have already calculated the moment of inertia of a rectangular section, that is given by BD cube by 12. So for external rectangle it will be capital B multiplied by capital D cube divided by 12, and we subtract from it the small BD cube by 12. So your net 1 by 12 BD cube minus small BD cube will be the moment of inertia about the x-axis. You can calculate the section modulus for this figure by dividing this Ixx with the Ymax. So what shall be the value of Ymax in this case? You see here the maximum distance fiber is lying at the bottom of this figure, which will be at the distance of capital D by 2 from the centroidal axis, or the neutral axis I would say. So Ymax will be here capital D by 2. If you substitute these value here, you will get the section modulus value as BD cube minus small BD cube divided by 6 times of D. You can also calculate the value of a radius of gyration, and for that you need to take the under root of Ixx by A. You already have the value of Ixx. The area of cross section for this hollow will be hollow section will be capital BD minus small bd. So that will be the area of cross section. So in this way we can calculate the section modulus or the moment of inertia for a hollow section also. Now the other section that is shown here, that is a C-shaped section here. Now this C-shaped section can be obtained by, basically you can assume it that you have cut this section, hollow rectangular section, from this place and this place, and you have moved this web over to the other side. So the net width of this web will be just twice of what it is earlier. So earlier it was capital B minus small b divided by 2. Right now it is small capital B minus small b. So width is become double here, and you see still the outer rectangle is of capital B into capital D size, and the inner rectangle is small b into small d size. Basically you haven't changed the distribution of the material about the axis xx. So the channel section as you have formed in this way tells you that you are not changing basically y square dot delta a, because you are not changing the distribution of the material about the xx axis in any way by moving this web portion to the left hand side and joining it with the other portion. So that's why your moment of inertia of the section hollow rectangular section and this C section, they are both going to remain same. You can in fact do the calculations as we have done it earlier for the Ixx here as shown here. You can do it for the C section. You will find that it is going to come out to be same as 1 by 12 capital BD cube minus small bd cube. In the similar fashion, if you move both of these webs at the center, if you cut it from here and move it to the center and move it to the center, then you are going to get this I section. So again in the case of I section, you haven't changed the distribution of the material about x axis. So therefore your moment of inertia is going to be the same for the I section also. So for all these three sections we can apply the same formula, BD cube minus small bd cube divided by 12. That's going to be your moment of inertia for these sections. Now let's lastly take the case of a circular section, and circular section as is shown here. We need to find, we are going to apply the perpendicular axis theorem in order to determine the moment of inertia of the circular section about the x-x axis or y-y axis. So it is easier for us in this figure to compute the value of moment of inertia about the z axis, which is perpendicular to both x and y axis and coming out of the plane of this paper or the board that you are seeing. So first find out the moment of inertia about z axis, then apply perpendicular axis theorem. Let's assume, let's see that we have this elementary ring which is having the thickness of delta x, and it is situated at a distance small x from the your z axis. Okay, and the area of this strip will be how much? It will be basically the circumference of this strip, that is 2 pi x multiplied by the thickness of this strip, so that is delta x. So 2 pi x is the circumference, so that gives you the length of this strip, multiplied by the thickness of the strip, that gives you the area, approximate area of this circular strip, that is the 2 pi x dot delta x. Now if we calculate IZZ, we need to find the summation of x square delta a, or basically integral of the quantity of x square dot delta a. So you have x square here, which is the distance of this strip from the z axis, multiplied by delta a. Delta is your 2 pi x dot delta x. Integral sign here will have the limit from 0 to r, so it is going from origin to the maximum distance r, small r, that is the radius of this circular section. So you will have 2 pi, and because this x square will multiply with x, so it will become x cube. So this integral will be x4 by 4 with the limit sign of from 0 to r, which is going to give you 2 pi dot r4 by 4. If we express the r in terms of diameter d, so you can write r is equal to d by 2. In that case, the moment of inertia about the z axis will be calculated as pi by 32 d4. Now let's recall our perpendicular axis theorem, which says that IZZ is equal to Ixx plus Iyy. Because this is a symmetrical figure, so therefore moment of inertia about x-axis and y-axis are they both going to be same. So you can write Ixx is equal to Iyy. So basically your IZZ will be equal to twice of Ixx or twice of Iyy. So from this you can calculate Ixx, that is half of Izz, which will be given by pi by 64 d4. So for a circular section, moment of inertia about x-axis axis or even y-y axis, they both are going to be same, and they are going to be equal to pi by 64 d4. We can calculate the value of radius of gyration kxx by simply dividing the moment of inertia with the area and taking the under root of this quantity. Area will be here pi d square by 4, so that gives you kxx value as d by 4. You can also calculate the section modulus zxx by dividing the moment of inertia by the ymax. Ymax will be here the extreme fiber that will be situated at a d by 2 distance from the center or the z axis. So you have there as ymax equal to d by 2. So that gives you the zxx value equal to, or the section modulus value equal to pi d cube by 32. If this section would have been hollow, and if you know the outer diameter of, let's say, the section is capital D and inner diameter is, let's say, small d, so then you can apply the proposition third, that is the moment of inertia of the composite figure, and using the sign of subtraction there, you can calculate the moment of inertia of the hollow circular section. So for hollow circular section, the moment of inertia Ixx can be written as pi by 64 outer diameter to the power 4 minus inner diameter to the power 4, that is d4 minus d4, and you can find the value of Ixx. Similarly, you can use this to calculate the kxx and zxx for the circular section also. So this brings us to the end of today's lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to do some numericals, where we are going to utilize the relations that we have obtained in the case of bending stress also, and we are going to apply also the moment of inertia theorems and other things that we have learned in the today's lecture also.